In the dimly lit council chamber of Astapor, the tension was palpable. Daenerys Targaryen sat on her throne, her expression regal yet contemplative. Behind her, Drogon, Regal, and Viserion stirred restlessly, their low growls reverberating through the stone walls. Before her stood Varos, his fiery gaze unyielding, his black and red robes giving him the air of an ancient power. "You summon me again, Varos?" Daenerys said, her tone steady but edged with curiosity. "You speak often of the Night King and the threat he poses, yet now you come with talk of Robert Baratheon, the usurper. What do you want from me?" Varos stepped closer, his voice resonant with urgency. "Daenerys Stormborn, mother of dragons, the time has come to act not for conquest but for survival. The realm stands divided, its houses embroiled in conflict. The Night King marches closer with every moment of inaction, and every soul he claims strengthens his army. If we are to prevail, the houses of Westeros must unite." Daenerys tilted her head slightly, her violet eyes narrowing. "Unite? With Robert Baratheon, the man who stole my family's throne and killed my kin? You ask much, Varos." Varos's expression remained unwavering. "I ask only what is necessary. Robert Baratheon may have taken the Iron Throne from your family, but his armies and alliances hold the key to uniting the realm. Without him, the Seven Kingdoms will remain fractured, vulnerable to the onslaught of the dead." Daenerys rose from her throne, her voice calm but firm. "And what of the Lannisters? Tywin, with his golden company, sits in defiance of Robert's rule. Even if I were to meet with Robert, how could we plan for the greater threat while such division remains?" Varos inclined his head, his tone measured. "The Lannisters are a challenge, but not an insurmountable one. Together, you and Robert can devise a strategy to neutralize Tywin's forces, ensuring the realm's focus shifts to the true enemy. The Golden Company may be formidable, but they are sellswords, bound by contracts and coin. They are not invincible." Daenerys's eyes flickered with a mix of doubt and consideration. "And you believe Robert would meet with me? That he would agree to a truce?" Varos nodded, his voice resolute. "He is a man of war, but he is also a man who understands survival. The Night King threatens all life, from the noble houses to the lowliest peasant. Even Robert's grudges pale in comparison to the annihilation that awaits if the dead are not stopped." Jorah Mormont, standing at Daenerys' side, interjected cautiously. "Your Grace, Varos's words are bold, but the risks are great. If Robert sees this as a trick or a trap, it could end in bloodshed. Do we trust him?" Varos turned his fiery gaze to Jorah. "Trust is a luxury we cannot afford. This is not about trust, it is about necessity. The Dead March, Ser Jorah. Do you believe the Lannisters or the Baratheons will care about petty rivalries when the Night King turns them into whites?" Daenerys remained silent for a moment, her hand resting lightly on the arm of her throne. Finally, she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of her decision. "Very well, I will meet with Robert Baratheon. But let it be known, I do this not for him nor for his throne, but for the living. If we are to stand together, it will be on equal footing, not as a Targaryen bowing to a Baratheon." Varos inclined his head, respect evident in his expression. "As it should be, Daenerys Stormborn. The living must stand united, or they will fall divided." Daenerys turned to Jorah. "Prepare the fleet. We sail for Westeros. Send ravens ahead to announce our arrival and to request a parley with King Robert. If he truly understands the stakes, he will agree." Jorah bowed, though his unease was clear. "It will be done, Your Grace." As Varos turned to leave, he paused, his voice softer but no less commanding. "You have the power to change the course of history, Daenerys Targaryen, but the path ahead will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Remember, this is not just a battle for a throne, it is a battle for the very survival of the living." Daenerys watched him go, her mind racing with the implications of his words. The choice she had made would set into motion events that could shape the fate of the realm. For now, her dragons would not fly for conquest, but for unity, and the fragile hope that the living could prevail against the darkness. Daenerys stood before Varros in the great chamber of Astapor, her tone firm and resolute as she addressed him. Behind her, the faint growls of Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion echoed through the halls, a constant reminder of the power she wielded. Varros, standing tall and imposing, met her gaze with the calm intensity of someone who had seen the weight of destiny unfold in the flames. "I will meet Robert Baratheon," Daenerys declared, her voice steady, "but not in King's Landing. I will not set foot in the capital, nor will I walk into a city that has seen my family's blood spilled. The meeting will take place on Dragonstone, where my ancestors ruled before the conquest. A place of neutrality." Varros inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her choice. "A wise decision, Daenerys Stormborn. Dragonstone holds the history of your house and stands apart from the politics of the throne. But if you are to meet Robert, you must do so from a position of strength." Daenerys's violet eyes locked onto Varros's fiery gaze. "That is why I need you to come with me, Varros. Your dragons are unlike anything Westeros has seen in centuries. Their presence alone will command respect, even from Robert Baratheon." Varros studied her for a moment, then gave a slow nod. "I will accompany you, Daenerys. Scourge and Vermilion will sail with your fleet. Together, we will show Robert the power that stands against the darkness and the importance of unity." Daenerys turned to Ser Jorah and Missandei, who stood nearby, listening intently. "Prepare the fleet. We bring our entire host to Westeros, unsullied second sons and all who are loyal to the cause. This is not just a meeting. It is a declaration that we stand ready to face the dead and the forces that would divide us." Jorah stepped forward, his voice cautious but resolute. "Your Grace, taking your entire host will be seen as a show of strength, but it may also provoke fear in Robert and his bannermen. Are you certain this is the path you wish to take?" Daenerys nodded, her expression unyielding. "Fear may be a necessary tool, Ser Jorah. Robert must see that I come not as a conqueror, but as an equal. We will not bow, nor will we cower. If we are to unite the living, it must be on equal footing." Missandei spoke softly, her tone supportive. "The ships are ready, Your Grace. The journey to Dragonstone will be swift." Varros turned toward the open archway, where the faint roar of Scourge could be heard. "I will ready my dragons. They will fly above the fleet, a reminder of the strength we bring. But remember, Daenerys, this is not just about power, it is about survival. The dead will not wait for politics to play out." Daenerys stepped closer to him, her tone softening slightly. "I know, but if Robert cannot see reason, then we must be prepared for what comes after. The Night King is the greatest threat, but he is not the only one." Varros regarded her with a mixture of respect and understanding. "You are learning, Daenerys Stormborn. The path ahead is fraught with peril, but you have the strength to walk it." As the chamber emptied and preparations for the journey began, Daenerys stood in silence for a moment, her thoughts racing. She had made her decision, and now the course was set. With Varros and his dragons by her side, and her fleet and army sailing to Westeros, she would meet Robert Baratheon not as a supplicant, but as a queen, a force equal to any in the realm. The drums of war beat faintly in the distance, but for now, the hope of unity lingered in the air. The living would gather, and with them, the fragile chance of survival against the darkness that loomed ever closer. Daenerys stood on the balcony of the great chamber in Astapor, overlooking the bustling preparations of her fleet below. Ships were being loaded with supplies, unsullied and second sons were boarding, and the banners of House Targaryen fluttered in the warm breeze. She turned to Varros, who stood beside her, his fiery eyes watching the scene below with a quiet intensity. "We will send a raven in advance," Daenerys said, her tone decisive. "Robert Baratheon and Stannis must know that we are coming. Let them understand that this is not an invasion but a meeting of necessity. Dragonstone will be our ground to discuss the fate of the living." Varros inclined his head, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "A wise move, Daenerys Stormborn. It will give them time to prepare, physically and mentally, for your arrival. The sight of dragons and armies is not one Westeros is accustomed to." Daenerys nodded, her gaze distant for a moment as if weighing her words. Then, she turned to him, her voice softer but filled with purpose. "Varos, I must ask, do you have more dragons like Scourge and Vermilion? If the Night King strikes while we are in Westeros, we will need every weapon we can muster to rain dragonfire upon the north." Varos's fiery gaze flickered, a rare hint of something close to amusement crossing his features. "Yes, Daenerys. Scourge and Vermilion are not the only dragons I command. I have one greater still, a dragon yet unseen by the world, the largest of them all." Daenerys's violet eyes widened slightly, her interest piqued. "A dragon larger than Scourge? What is its name?" "His name is Maelstrom," Varos replied, his voice low and reverent. "He is the culmination of old Valyria's might, bred not just for war but for dominance. He has remained hidden until now, awaiting the moment when his power would be most needed." Daenerys's lips curved into a faint smile, her confidence bolstered by the revelation. "Good. We will bring them all to Westeros, Scourge, Vermilion, Maelstrom, and my own dragons. If the Night King dares to strike, he will face the full might of dragonfire." Varos nodded, his expression serious. "They will be ready, Daenerys. But know this, dragons are not only weapons. They are symbols of power and unity. Their presence will either inspire or terrify the lords of Westeros. You must tread carefully." Daenerys turned back to the fleet, her voice resolute. "Let them be terrified if they must. The dead are the true enemy, and if it takes fear to unite the living, so be it. This is no time for half measures." As the final preparations were made and the ships began to cast off, Daenerys turned to Missandei. "Send the Raven. Let Robert and Stannis know we set sail for Dragonstone, and we come not as conquerors but as allies against the dead." Missandei bowed her head and left to fulfill the order. Daenerys and Varos remained on the balcony, watching as the fleet began to move toward the open sea, dragons circling above like harbingers of the power they carried. The course was set, and with every wave that carried her closer to Westeros, Daenerys felt the weight of destiny settle upon her shoulders. The dragons would fly, and the living would unite, or they would all perish in the fire and frost of the battles to come.